What's going on, guys? This is number 8 Axel, and today we are in our second part of our Nitrado server settings video, where we're talking about how to set up and change settings on an Ark Survival Evolved server. Again, this is part 2, so if you didn't see part 1, I highly recommend going to watch that one. It's going to tell you about how you purchase, how to actually set the server itself up. Then it goes over world settings, so your first set of settings you're going to come across when you're trying to set everything up. This is going to be going over your in-game multipliers, which would be various quantities of damage, how much XP you earn, stuff like that. So we're just going to kind of get into it because this is going to be a bit lengthy because there's a lot to go over here. As you can see, there's a lot of multipliers. So first one, Dino Damage Multiplier. So this is how much damage dinos that are wild do. Notice it actually mentions them wild. So say they deal 10 damage. If you have it set to 2.5, they'll deal 25 instead. Player, same thing but with player. 10, 5.0 would be 50. Structure would be things like spike walls and I believe turrets. 100 would be like if it normally dealt 10 and now deals 1,000. Auto decay old structures. This one allows the multiplier for previous settings discussed in the first video on how quickly certain structures are automatically destroyed. Those do vary based on the tier, so thatch just decays a lot faster than tech. I would go to the Gamepedia for Ark to get those specific numbers because I do not know them off the top of my head. Player resistance multiplier, dino structure. This is one of the weird ones, and this is why this video is going to take a bit longer. So this is what I like to call the reverse multiplier, meaning if it's at 1, it's default. If I set it to 2, my resistance is now, I believe, half as good. So this one, the lower your value is, the more resistance you have. So this would be things like damage. So let's go back to use my 10 example. Now I take 20. Now I take 5. So again, this is one of those reverse ones. All of the resistance multipliers are reversed. So that's something you need to keep in mind when you're setting this. XP multiplier. This would allow you to multiply the amount of XP gained. So, obviously it's at 1. Oh, whoopsie. Let's go back out. So, you can set it anywhere as high as you want. Max level is 105 without Ascension or editing that, which will be another video in and of itself. Taming speed multiplier. This is how quickly do you want a dinosaur to be tamed. If you want near instant taming for most servers, 200 will get you close to instant tame on just about every server. Harvesting multiplier. This will affects how much of in general you get. So at 1 you don't get a lot. I'm pretty sure even official servers aren't at 1. I don't know. Let's go 100 just for the sake of this example. Resource health. So increasing this would make it so that a rock could take more hits. So let's say with a harvesting multiplier 100, my rock can only take 1 hit for my stone pickaxe. Set to 2, takes 2. Set to 3, it takes 3. So on and so forth. You get the idea. Set it lower, what'll start happening instead is you'll get lower resources. But it'll only still survive the single hit. Draining multiplier. How fast do you want water to be drained from a player? Water is a stat that only players have. It is not on dinos. So if you set this to 1, it's obviously default. Set it to 2, now water, you get thirsty twice as fast. Set it to 5, half as fast. Starvation, same thing for food. So increasing this, you're going to need to eat more often. Decreasing it, you aren't. This is the one for dino, so this is tamed only. So increase this, they need to eat more. Decrease it, need to eat less. Stamina, how quickly stamina drains. So as you run, do actions, how much you can do before that runs out relative to your stamina amount. This does not affect the stats. I should note that. That's going to be another thing. This is just how much actions drain it. Dino Stamina, same thing. Regeneration. This is how fast health recovers. So, one thing to note, the higher this is, the faster you burn through food. So if you're going to raise this, you're going to want to raise this. Player harvesting damage. So this is how much harvest damage you do to, again, resources. The higher, the more more you collect, and the faster you can destroy that harvest item. This is only for resources like stone, trees, obsidian. It will not affect player-made structures. Dino regeneration is basically the same thing, but for dinos. Again, you raise this, you're going to want to raise the dino hunger, because otherwise you're going to have starving dinos that are dying from it. Dino count. This is one that you've got to watch how high you go, but it increases the amount of dinosaurs on the ark. So this would be at 1.0 is standard, 2.0 I now have twice as many of all dinos on the ark. Again, only affects wilds. Will not affect the previous video where we mentioned the tame settings. That will not increase the maximum dinos tamed. This only affects the amount of dinos on the server. Wild. Decay. Again, this allows you to increase the manual decay speed, not the auto decay. Manual decay is once that timer is up, any player can walk up to a structure and dismantle it. Resource respawn. How quickly does a resource that's been depleted respawn? So how quickly do new trees grow back? Do your rocks reappear? Regrown structure. I highly recommend not playing with this. What this does is, if I was to put a wood foundation down, how far before any trees or anything that I broke down, how far away from that structure are they not allowed to respawn? If you set this to a low value, you will have trees and rocks regrowing inside bases. Regrow multiplier. This is basically the same thing except for player, meaning the higher this is, the farther away you have to go for it to respawn. Dino decay. So if you were to unclaim a dino, there is a time on it where after that timer expires, it becomes, I believe, wild, or it's removed. This is another one of those reverse ones where the higher the number, the slower that timer gets, or the higher the number is. So if you want to do it faster, you've got to go below 1.0. Platform saddle multiplier. This increases how many structures you can put on a platform saddle or a raft. So if you increase this, this is not a flipped one. So if you do 2.0, I can place double structures, etc., etc. Egg lay. How fast do you want eggs from dinos to lay? Now, this does not affect breeding. This is only how many eggs are going to pop out, fertile or not. Dino turret damage. How much damage do turrets do towards a dino? Dino harvesting. This is basically the player version, but for dinos. Custom recipe. So that if you make a custom recipe in a cooking pot, how effective is it? Then this one is essentially the same kind of thing, except this is the one that takes the crafting speed into account. So there's a formula for this. I don't know what it is. Mating multiplier. How often do you want mating to go? So 1.0, obviously. This is another flip one, so this would be twice as slow. This would be faster. Egg hatch. This is not a flip one. The higher this is, the faster eggs will hatch. Then all of these are various XP multipliers. These are added on top of the general XP multiplier. So it would be, so if that's set to 5, which is what we have it set to, killing would give you 5, for example. This isn't actual values, but yeah. Harvest again. So if you raise this, it's going to be that 5 times whatever uh, this is set to. So let's make it another 5. So now harvesting, I get 5 times experience for harvesting on top of whatever my default multiplier is. Generic, you slowly gain XP over time just by being on the game. So this would affect how much you get by just kind of idling around, not doing anything. Special XP, this would be for events like, I believe the Chibi Dinos for Winter Wonderland are affected by this. Supply crate loot quality. You raise this, the better items are going to be in the supply drops. This one, same thing but for fishing. Crop growth speed. Higher this number is, the faster crops grow. So the faster they become seeds to full-grown crops. Fuel consumption. Higher this one gets, the longer a single thing of gas or element lasts. Crop decay. So this would be how fast a crop will die, and you have to recycle with a new seed. Lower the number, the longer a crop will last. Hair growth. This one determines how fast hair on characters grows. Swim speed stat. So this one, if you set this to anything other than 1.0, the higher your oxygen is, the faster you go in the water. If you set this to lower, I believe it actually starts lowering your speed. So be wary of that. Corpse usage. This is how long the bags left by dead animals last, as well as how long the corpse itself lasts. By default, it's 30 minutes. Battery consumption. This is how quickly a charge battery from Aberration lasts when used in an electrical object, like a like a light. There we go. Yeah. Tame creature starvation. So this is how quickly tame creatures starve, and how much they take when they are starving. Wild creature. This is useful for if you want to make wild creatures become hungry faster. This will slightly increase tame speeds. Wild creature torpor and tame creature torpor. This is how quickly, when I shoot a dino with a tranq dart, how much torpidity does it gain, and how quickly does it get knocked out. The higher the number, the more, the faster it drains, so it's going to take more. Passive tame interval. So whenever you're trying to do a passive tame, such as glow creatures from Aberration, the higher this number is, the more they're going to want to eat. Now for the baby multipliers. Maturation speed. How fast do you want them to mature? So again, this is not a reverse, so 2 is twice as fast, 0.5 is half as fast. Baby cuddle. This is for imprinting. The higher this number gets, the more often you're going to have to interact with that dino to get the imprinting. Imprinting stat scale. The higher this is, the more stat boosts they get. If you don't want them to get any stat boosts, set it to 0. Grace period. This is how long after a cuddle is available that you start losing imprint quality. Baby food consumption. How fast does a baby eat? And cuddle lose. This is, again, how fast it starts losing. This is when the cuddle is available, though. If this is before it's available. So, obviously, I don't think you're going to want to play with this one if you're looking to do imprinting, unless you want to lower it. Do not raise it, obviously. Okay, this stuff you got to be real careful with. Only specified engrams. So this will be covered in a different video. I will get back to you guys later on that one. So next video we're going to be covering engine settings.